All right, here we are with our next lesson, and this one's going to be about circles and finding circumference and area of a circle in preparation for some sections on finding volume. First of all, we got a bell work problem. We're going back to one of our equations. So we got 5v plus 15 minus 8v equals negative 1. So I'm going to rearrange this and put the v terms together. So 5v minus 8v plus 15 equals negative 1. And if I combine the v terms, I get negative 3v plus 15 equals negative 1. Then I minus 15 from each side, so that's going to give me negative 3v. And I'm thinking about this. We're going to end up with a decimal on this, but that's probably okay because sometimes in life we do get decimals. In fact, whenever we go to the store, we get a decimal, right? So we're going to end up with negative 3v equals negative 16. And when you divide by negative 3 on both sides, you'll get your final answer. And we're going to end up just writing this as a fraction rather than having a bunch of decimal numbers on the end. So we divide by negative 3, and we end up with v equals 16 thirds, and that should actually be a positive 16 thirds because we divided both sides by a negative. Okay, today we're talking about parts of a circle. So there's different words and different marks that they put on a circle that describe parts of a circle, and these are all very important. So from the center to the outside edge, any line that indicates that, that's a radius. A line that goes all the way across the circle and goes through the center is called a circumference, a diameter. And then any line that just goes from one side of the circle to the other but not through the center is called a chord. Okay, now a circle with a center end is shown in the figure below. So they want us to name a radius. So to name a radius, you're basically going to write down the two letters of that little line segment that shows both sides of our radius. So our QN is our radius. Then our next one, name a diameter. So that's going to be O and P because it's that blue line there. So all the way across, we got O and P. Name a chord. So the chord that we can see off to the right side there is that little segment. Then so we'll put that out. That's green, and that's going to be segment RS. So that is our chord. Now, if the length NQ is 6 units, what is the length of OP? Well, we know that a radius is halfway across. And so if NQ equals 6, then OP is going to be double that. So it's going to be 2 times 6, which equals 12. Okay. So what else are we going to be doing with this material that we're learning about? So circumference of a circle. So the circumference, radius, and diameter are a couple of other things. So the circumference is the distance around the outside edge of the circle, and the formula for that is pi times the diameter. Or if you don't have a diameter, you have the radius, then you do 2 times pi times the radius because the diameter is twice the radius. Most of these problems, we're going to use 3.14 for pi rather than letting it, going out further in its decimal. So let's try a couple. The diameter of a circle measures 12 centimeters. What is the circumference of the circle? So remember, circumference is equal to 3.14 times the diameter. Okay, I'm going to write that a little neater. So 3.14 times 12, which is our diameter in this case, And 3.14 times 12 equals, and we're going to grab a calculator. And in this application, you can't see my calculator, but hopefully you're doing that on your calculator. I've got a calculator in my hand, or I'll do this one on the board, and I'll start doing them with a calculator. So if you do it longhand, you just do 3.14 times 12, and you'd get 6.28 and 314, and go ahead and write them all out. And then you know you need to bring the decimal over two places. So 37.68 centimeters would be the circumference of that circle. Okay, moving on. The circumference of a circle garden is 168.18 feet. What is the diameter of the garden? Okay, so circumference is 3.14 times 116.18. Okay, so I think I've kind of messed up on this one. I'm actually treating that diameter. It said that the circumference was 116.18. It was actually the diameter that was 116.18. So we're actually finding the circumference by multiplying 3.6 or 3.14 times 116.18. So our actual circumference is 364.8052 feet. And we've kind of mislabeled this picture, so we'll get it fixed on our next video. But we've actually got 364.8052 feet for our circumference, and the 116.18 you see in the circle was, in fact, the diameter, not the circumference. Okay. So let's see if we can do better on the next problem. And we went ahead and rounded that to the nearest hundredth, just in case it asked us to do that. But in this particular case, they told us we didn't need to round. So you got two different versions of the answer there. Okay, next. So we're starting to find the area of a circle now. So the area of a circle is pi times the radius squared. And again, for pi, we use 3.14. And then radius is the distance across from the middle of a circle to the outside edge. And so if you have a radius, if you just double that, you can get the diameter. Or if you have a diameter and you want the radius, you just divide the diameter by 2 and you get the radius. So it's pretty straightforward. So use 3.14 for pi and do not round your answer. Be sure to include the correct unit in your answer. So area is 3.14 times radius squared, and 3.14, and the radius is 6, so we got 6 squared, which is going to be 36. And when we multiply all of that out, what do we get? Well, hopefully you're doing that on your calculator if you're watching this video from home or wherever you might be. So you end up with 113.04, and our units are meters. And so that is the area of the circle. So So on the next one, 3.14 for pi. Do not round your answer, but be sure to include the correct unit in your answer. So again, we're trying to find the area. But they gave us a diameter, so we need to divide it by 2, and then we can get our radius. So 18 divided by 2 equals 9, and that will be the number that we put into the problem. So 3.14 times 9 squared, or 3.14 times 81. And when we do that, Okay, so 3.14 times 81 then would be, if you got your calculator handy, would be 254.34 inches squared, because we are finding the area. All right. Okay, use 3.144 pi and do not round your answer. Be sure to, oh, I did happen to notice that on the problem before I did not put square units on our answer, so I switched back and took care of that. Okay, on this one, we've got a radius of 9. Wait just a minute. Didn't I just see that not long ago? That would be 3.14 times 81. And let's go back. The answer to that one was 254.34 inches squared, so we already got that answer. So let's go back, 254.34 inches squared, or feet squared, excuse me. And then our circumference is just going to be 3.14 times the diameter. And here we have a radius, so we're going to have a radius of 9. That means diameter is going to be 9 times 2. So that's 18, right? So that's the diameter. And then 3.14 times 18 will give us the circumference. Now I put C equals 18. That should be a D equals 18. That's the diameter. And then C is going to equal 56. Let's make that a little bit neater. So C equals 56.52 feet. It's just feet because it's a distance across or around the outside edge of the circle. Okay, let's just do one or two more here. So here's one we've got a diameter of 8, which is a radius of 4. So we've got to find the area of a circle that has a radius of 4. So that would be 3.14 times 4 squared. And then the circumference would just be 3.14 times that 8, which was our diameter. So let's figure out each of these answers very quickly. So 3.14 times 4 squared would equal 50.24. And because that is a area, we're going to square it, so it'll be centimeters squared. And then 3.14 times 8 would equal 25.12 centimeters. Very nice. Okay, so that's how you find area and circumference. So now what might it look like in Alex? Well, on an Alex problem, you could have something that looks like this. The figure below shows a circular park. Its radius is 18 yards. Use a calculator to find the area and circumference of the park. And then it says to use 3.14 for pi and not to round your answers. So the first one's going to be 3.14 times 18 squared. The second one's going to be 3.14 times 9 or times 36, which is 18 times 2 to get our diameter. So when we calculate these out, 3.14 times 18 squared, and 18 squared is just 18 times 18. That's going to give us 1017.36, and our units were yards. So yards squared. Then for our circumference, it's going to be 3.14 times 36. And 3.14 times 36 is 113.04. And it's just the distance around the outside edge, so that's just yards. Then the end of the problem, it asks us another question. It says, the park will be covered by artificial turf. Which measure would be used in finding the amount of turf needed? Well, that would be the area because you're covering the entire park. The next part, a rope will be placed around the park. which measure would be used to find the amount of rope needed? Well, that would be the circumference. All right, so there's your assignment, area and circumference of a circle on Alex. Thank you very much.